The story begins in the world of Elath, where a great war rages between humans and immortals. At the center of this battle is the showdown between the strongest from both sides, the human hero Graham and the demon lord Velto. Normally, such a battle would be meaningless since Velto is immortal. However, Graham's holy sword deals a blow strong enough to overcome Velto's regenerative abilities. As his body begins to disintegrate, Velto expresses disbelief that he lost to a mortal who is supposedly weaker in every way. Graham argues that mortality itself is what gives humans their strength. The knowledge that life is fleeting pushes them to be strong. Though Velto scoffs at the idea, Graham insists it's the reason for his victory. As Velto vanishes, he vows to return, and Graham says he'll be waiting if that ever happens. Fast forward to the present. Velto awakens from his long slumber and is greeted by a girl named Machina, who has been waiting 500 years to bring him back. She apologizes for her appearance, but Velto doesn't mind. He is grateful she successfully performed the reincarnation ritual. Velto immediately wants to reclaim the world, but Machina tells him that the old world no longer exists. About 80 years ago, the worlds of Elath and Earth collided in a catastrophic event that wiped out 90% of the population and caused governments to collapse. Now, cities function as independent states, and after combining Earth's technology with Elath's magic, humanity has progressed even further. When a man nearly bumps into them, Velto is furious that a mere mortal dared touch one of his elite followers, one of the 6 dark peers, and decides to remind the world of his power. He casts a spell that blasts a hole through the clouds, but instead of fearing him, people just think he's using weather magic for fun. An alarm goes off and Machina quickly pulls him away, explaining that magic use is banned within city limits. She tells Velto that after his death, a ceasefire was established, but when the 2 worlds merged, immortals became persecuted. Humanity declared that immortals weren't deserving of basic rights, treating them like monsters. As humans advanced, they developed anti-immortal tech, forcing Machina to go into hiding since she was one of the few who could bring Velto back. Velto notices she hasn't mentioned someone named Marcus, which makes her nervous. She dodges the topic and goes to get him a drink. While waiting, Velto sees strange lights floating toward a girl who suddenly hijacks every screen in the city. Intrigued, he confronts her and reveals he saw ether fluctuations around her during the incident. She's shocked that he could detect her actions so easily. When he introduces himself as the demon lord Velto, she doesn't believe him, but blushes when he compliments her intelligence. Velto asks if she knows Marcus, and she points him to a skyscraper where Marcus is now CEO of a major company. At the building, Marcus's secretary Kanara greets Velto, and on the way up, he notices a mascot on her shirt, which she explains is Ishari, the face of their magic tech company. At the top, Velto meets Marcus, who stays seated, an act Velto finds disrespectful. Velto demands Marcus help him rebuild the immortal kingdom, but Marcus laughs and refuses. When Velto prepares to attack, Kanara suddenly tries to cut him, and Velto barely dodges. Marcus scolds her but mocks Velto's weakness, saying the old Velto wouldn't need to dodge. Marcus shows Velto a device on his neck, the Familia, which allows humans to bypass most steps of magic casting. This gives ordinary people incredible power and speed, making them faster than even Velto. Moreover, the device is designed to not work for higher beings like Velto, preserving the human advantage. Velto is stunned that Marcus, once his subordinate, is now so much stronger. Marcus reveals he has always hated Velto, jealous of how superior he used to be. He attacks Velto with magic and knocks him out of the building, thinking he's killed him. But Velto survives, though his regeneration is much weaker. Disoriented, he stumbles into a group and gets thrown into a garbage pile. Machina eventually finds him and apologizes for hiding Marcus's betrayal. Velto says it wouldn't have changed his decision to confront Marcus. She takes him to her apartment, and he's surprised it's a small, cramped space, all she could afford while waiting centuries for his return. Touched by her loyalty, he hugs and thanks her. The story then flashes back to centuries ago when Machina, exposed as an immortal, was being executed by her own people. As they pushed her into a volcano, Velto suddenly appeared, and saved her. In the present, Machina wakes Velto up for breakfast. He's amazed at how good the food tastes, which makes her happy. He asks if she knows where the other immortals are, and she tells him that while a few have survived, many have gone missing recently, including her close friends. She found signs of struggle in one of their rooms, along with a note referencing something called the Immortal Furnace. Velto spills some tea, blaming it on his slowed regeneration. He admits he's still weakened and can't use his magic properly. Machina explains it's because the source of his power, faith, has largely disappeared in the modern world. Without people believing in him or directing strong emotions toward him, his strength wanes. Still, Velto isn't worried. As an immortal, he believes he can always rebuild his influence. To help him adjust to the new world, Machina takes him shopping. At the store, Velto is surprised that the place seems empty, but she tells him to step on a 3D scanner that helps find the best clothes. Although she feels bad about not affording fancy clothes, Velto brushes it off, saying he can make anything look good. He lets her pick his outfit, and her familia, a magical AI-like device, suggests a tracksuit with an old inscription on the back that translates to the Demon Lord. Velto is pleased. He tries to pay, but Machina explains the transaction was automatic, thanks to the familia. She then explains more about the device. It aids in communication, shopping, magic use, and more. It has essentially replaced smartphones. Velto touches the one on her neck, curious, and she gets a notification about her elevated heart rate, but ignores it. Velto considers finding a job. Machina offers to work extra shifts instead, but he refuses, saying he won't let her support them alone. He's determined to rebuild himself, and even conquer the world again. She pledges her loyalty to him once more. As Velto heads out to look for work, Machina gives him a device to contact her and make payments. While thinking about what kind of job he could get, his stomach growls. He's hungry for the first time ever. Realizing how much his power has declined, he shouts that he needs a job and is willing to do anything. A man overhears and points him to the commercial guild, but first asks if Velto has a citizen ID. When Velto doesn't, the man assumes he's an undocumented immigrant, but still hands him a job application and warns him to avoid companies under the Ishimaru group due to their bad reputation. At the guild, Velto is interviewed, but with no prior job experience. Besides ruling as a demon lord, he's told there are no available positions. Worse, he doesn't have a familia, and the guild only hires people with one. Disheartened, Velto returns to Machina and asks if she thinks he's useless in the modern world. She reassures him, saying those who rejected him simply can't comprehend his greatness. He asks if she knows anyone who could help, and she takes him to see some friends, Mach and Takahashi. Takahashi turns out to be the girl Velto met earlier. She finally believes he's really the demon lord since Machina always spoke of him. Velto notices Takahashi's familia is different and uses his sage eyes, a power that lets him analyze objects through mana, to study it. He understands the general function, but admits there's still a lot he doesn't know. He asks Takahashi if she can help him find a job. He wants something that will make his presence known to the world. She suggests he become a streamer. Velto has no idea what that is, so she explains it's where people broadcast themselves playing games, chatting, or singing, and they can earn money through ads and donations. She even offers to lend him her old streaming gear. Machina, however, is skeptical, thinking he should look for a more stable job. But Takahashi insists that Velto's good looks and voice will make him popular, which even Machina admits is true. Machina, used to living alone, accidentally walks out of the shower naked and apologizes in embarrassment. Velto tells her not to be ashamed and compliments her physique. Later, Takahashi arrives with the equipment and sets it all up. Machina is nervous, but Takahashi tells her to trust her plan. Velto tries out the setup. Instead of being taught how to use the controller, he uses Sage Eyes to instantly understand it. He picks a game, similar to Dark Souls, but dies almost immediately, and repeatedly. Takahashi thinks he's terrible at gaming, but Velto says he's just not used to the controller yet. Machina fears the plan is failing, but Takahashi disagrees. She says Velto's perfect appearance paired with terrible gameplay actually makes him stand out more. Since only a few streamers succeed in the oversaturated market, They decide he needs a unique catchphrase. Machina suggests one of his old war declarations, and Takahashi agrees it's a good start. Takahashi tells Velto he should stream daily, even if no one is watching, because it's the first step in building his legacy in the modern world. Takahashi tells Machina to stay out of the room while Velto streams, so viewers don't mistake her for his girlfriend. Velto continues streaming daily, and over time, his subscriber count steadily increases. Though not everyone enjoys his gameplay and he receives troll comments, Velto remains unaffected. Both praise and criticism fuel his power. Machina, however, struggles to tolerate the disrespect directed at her master. Eventually, Velto reaches 1 million subscribers and decides to try a new game. During a stream, someone is shown spying on Machina. After he finishes the game, a viewer comments on how angry he looked, but Velto jokes that if he were truly raging, the whole world would have been destroyed. Later, Velto goes for a walk while Machina stays behind to prepare dinner. On the street, he is shocked to see the hero Graham among the homeless. Flashbacks reveal Graham's past. He once cared for his sick sister and went out to gather herbs. His father gave him a sword for protection. On his way back, Graham saw an army of dragonfolk, led by one of Velto's generals, and was stunned. But his shock turned to horror when he found his home burned down and his family killed. From that moment, he vowed to destroy Velto. Back in the present, Velto invites Graham to a noodle shop and praises the food, though Graham shows little interest. Graham remarks on the irony of eating with the man who destroyed his life. Velto responds that he too lost many allies to Graham, but he no longer holds hatred toward him. When Velto asks how Graham is still alive, Graham explains that the goddess Melia granted him eternal youth after the war, though he's still human. Graham recounts that after the war, civil conflict broke out. He was forced to kill those he once protected, and when peace returned, he was exiled. He asks Velto why he sought to rule the world, and Velto replies that it was for peace, shocking Graham. Velto explains that immortals were once mortals, and his goal was to rise above everyone and bring order through strength. Graham disagrees with Velto's version of peace and leaves, thanking him for the meal but glad they talked. As Velto returns home, he hears Takahashi arguing with an ogre in an alley. The ogre moves to attack her, but Velto intervenes, grabbing the ogre's arm. The ogre, remembering their past fight, mocks Velto, but Velto wants to test his new powers now that he's gained 1 million subscribers. The ogre strikes, but Velto blocks the punch, though a wind attack breaks his arm. He quickly heals it and flicks the ogre into a trash pile. Takahashi thanks him and explains the ogre was supposed to be her bodyguard, but started demanding extra pay. She fires the ogre and hires Velto instead. Meanwhile, Marcus asks Kinara if anyone's sniffing around the immortal furnace. She assures him that any threats have been dealt with, and everything is on track. Later, Velto joins Takahashi on a mission. They arrive at a warehouse where she needs to retrieve an item. While she checks the data, Velto charges in, breaking the door and stumbling into a Yakuza operation. He asks if the glowing cube on the table is the target. Takahashi is surprised he's communicating with her despite not having a familia. Velto reveals he replicated the familia's ether communication with magic. Since the enemies are few, he plans to take them down quickly. He delivers his stream intro, but the gangsters don't recognize him and think he's just mocking them. They open fire, but Velto blocks their bullets with a magical barrier and retaliates, knocking them out one by one. When he attacks the boss, the man tries to shoot Velto, but Takahashi hacks the man's familia, tricking him into shooting his own partner. Velto finishes the boss with a powerful kick. As Takahashi approaches the cube, Velto suddenly senses danger and stops her. An invisible enemy attacks him, a giant mech. Velto shoots off its cloak, revealing a 4th-generation Magino gear used by special forces. Takahashi is shocked that the Yakuza could acquire such tech, suggesting a bigger threat is involved. Takahashi tells Velto they should run, but he wants to test his strength. The mech fires, and Velto dodges, returning fire with his magic. Though he lands a hit, it's not enough. He realizes his current power, fueled by his 1 million subscribers, has reached its limit. Still, he believes he can win. Drawing his sword, he charges the mech, which transforms its gun into a blade. They clash, but the mech goes full power, slicing off Velto's arm and head. The pilot reports the kill, But to their shock, Velto is still alive. He admits he's impressed but calls them inexperienced for letting their guard down. He summons his demonic sword, Vril, paralyzing the mech with fear. Velto disables it by cutting off its limbs, calling it a good fight but one it never could have won. The pilot, ashamed of his failure, takes his own life. Velto is astonished at the strength modern weapons can give, but Takahashi thinks he's scarier than any machine. She spots the Ishimaru logo on the mech, realizing the job is more dangerous than expected. Velto asks about the cube. Takahashi explains it's a data storage device designed for Mythil. Inside, they find a list of immortal names, former allies of Velto. Thankfully, Makaina's name isn't on the list. Takahashi tries to contact her client Yu for more details but can't reach him. She decides they'll have to visit him in person. Velto agrees, saying that as king, it's his duty to protect the immortals. Velto and Takahashi arrive at a large apartment building. Using her hacking skills, Takahashi bypasses security, and they enter. Velto eagerly asks to press the elevator buttons, saying he enjoys it, which she finds odd. However, she explains they can't go directly to the 13th floor and must follow a specific button sequence to reach it. When they arrive, Takahashi stops Velto from going in immediately, warning about traps. Velto uses his powers to detect and disarm all magical and physical traps, surprising her. He explains that, as a demon lord, he once built and maintained dungeons, so he's very familiar with trap mechanisms. They reach Yu's apartment and ring the bell, but no one answers. Velto notices the door is ajar, which Takahashi finds unusual since Yu is normally very cautious. A foul smell inside confirms Velto's suspicion that something's wrong. They find Yu's corpse, and Velto recognizes him from a past encounter, though Yu had always disguised himself as a homeless person. Velto inspects the body and determines he was killed a few days ago. While Takahashi suspects an enemy attack, Velto believes it was a professional hit. They also find that Yu's familia has been destroyed, which leads Takahashi to suspect the killer's goal was to erase all stored data. However, she reveals Yu was an information broker and an ether hacker, meaning he likely made a backup. They find a hidden drawer containing a backup drive. Oddly, there's no password, but the files appear corrupted. Velto realizes the folder structure hides a real file. They discover a video message from Yu. In the video, Yu reveals the city runs on an ether reactor powered by energy drawn from the planet's core. The reactor was supposed to tap into 10 ether lines, but only has access to 2, making it unable to sustain the entire city. To solve this, the Immortal Furnace project was launched. Immortals are incinerated to convert their souls into ether, which produces vastly more energy than mortals. The project secretly hired outsiders and homeless people to build it, only to kill them afterward. Yu calls this practice horrific, noting the Ishimaru Corporation refers to immortals as firewood. The first immortal sacrificed was the Dark Panel. Immortal hunts were a front to gather more victims, and now the corporation is running low, which is why they sought the list of remaining immortals from the Yakuza. Yu leaves the decision of what to do with the information to whoever finds it, saying only the Demon Lord could possibly stop the project. Velto considers leaking the information, but Takahashi warns that it would just get erased, and she'd likely be killed like Yu. Velto decides it's his duty as King of the Immortals to take responsibility. They agree to report the body to the authorities, and Velto says he must inform Machina, but he can't reach her, which worries him. Meanwhile, Machina is at the apartment, planning dinner when Marcus arrives. A huge explosion erupts. Marcus accuses her of attacking first, and they clash. Machina transforms into her combat form and blasts off Marcus's arm, but he regenerates and summons more swords. Machina defends with a barrier, but Kanara joins the fight. Though Machina escapes one blast, Kanara stabs her from behind after Marcus disables her familia. He reveals he used his new advanced familia to hack into hers, exploiting a hidden backdoor all familias share. Machina is powerless. Back at the apartment, Velto returns and sees the aftermath of the explosion. Takahashi hacks into local drone footage and discovers Marcus is responsible and is now transporting Machina, likely to the Immortal Furnace. Takahashi warns the area will be heavily guarded, but Velto says he knows someone who can help. Velto finds Graham and kneels, asking for help to save Machina. He explains the immortals are being burned to power the city. Graham says destroying the reactor might doom the city. Velto, however, insists on saving both Machina and the city, declaring it his duty as Demon Lord. Graham agrees to help, saying it's his job as a hero to protect the weak. Takahashi guides them to an underground route leading to the reactor. Velto worries they don't have time to clear a dungeon, but Graham uses a special skill to map it out instantly. Velto jokes about how much pride he used to take in dungeon building, and they briefly bicker before Takahashi reminds them to focus. Machina's life is at stake. They take the fastest route, and Velto asks Takahashi if she's ready. She replies she needs more time, so they'll have to stall. As they approach the reactor via elevator, communication with Takahashi is lost due to interference. Graham observes that Velto has grown stronger. Velto self-deprecates, but Graham says the old Velto would never have humbled himself for a vassal. They reach the reactor where Kanara greets them, surprised to see them. Meanwhile, Marcus confronts the captured Machina under the ether reactor. He shows her the immortal furnace and explains it powers the city by destroying immortal souls, a true death for beings like her. He taunts her with the fact that her friends were burned alive as fuel, including Zen. Machina becomes enraged and attacks, but his barrier shields him. Marcus claims the immortal's sacrifice ensures the city's prosperity. He says only a few within the Ishimaru Corporation know of the furnace, and they've kept it hidden to avoid public backlash. Marcus tells Machina that they're running out of firewood, so he plans to burn her soul next, knowing it will provide enough energy to sustain the city until they find another source, especially since she's one of the 6 dark peers. Meanwhile, Kanara stands in Velto's way, determined to stop him, but she's shocked to see Graham with him. She never imagined the hero and the Demon Lord would fight side by side. Graham admits he's past his prime but decides to face her. Velto warns him to be careful because of her swordsmanship, but Graham isn't worried. He reminds Velto that he used to be the strongest swordsman in Alth. Kanara suddenly appears behind Graham and strikes with a lightning slash, but he blocks her. Velto rushes toward the furnace, and when Kanara tries to stop him, Graham intervenes. Velto tells Graham not to die and jumps into the pit. Kanara mocks Graham, saying his time is over, but he responds that he'll keep fighting as long as people need him. She activates her prototype 5th-generation Magino gear, blinding Graham with a flash of light before launching him away. She boasts that the gear is superior but admits it has a flaw. Its operating time depends on the user's mana. Their battle intensifies. Kanara belittles him, calling him outdated, but Graham argues that experience and resolve matter more than flashy equipment. He notices that she must sheathe her sword before using her magic, which slows her down. Impressed by his observation, Kanara continues attacking, but Graham creates earth spikes to trap her. Though she escapes, he follows up with a frost nova, immobilizing her, and lands a fireball. Even though she survives the blast, Graham stays calm, knowing his tactics are effective even if his spells aren't overwhelming. Kanara becomes frustrated, wondering why she can't win. Graham declares he won't be defeated so easily because he's the hero. She prepares a powerful attack and mocks his old sword, but he says it will shine as long as people need him. Channeling his ultimate attack, his sword bursts with energy, engulfing the area in light. Despite the impact, Kanara remains standing. Graham admits her gear is impressive, but his 500 years of experience gave him the edge. Kanara wonders why Graham isn't with Velto, believing Velto doesn't stand a chance against Marcus. But Graham assures her that Velto has a trump card no one else knows about, and that he'll win once he uses it. She begs him to end her life, but he refuses, saying there's no point in killing someone who can't fight anymore. Suddenly they're attacked by a group of mechas, and Graham shields her with a barrier, preparing to fight. Back at the furnace, Marcus prepares to sacrifice Machina. He reveals his ambition to become the next Demon Lord by eliminating all immortals. As he lets her fall into the furnace, she recalls her memories with Velto and silently wishes him well, admitting she loves him. Just before she hits the bottom, Velto appears and saves her, apologizing for being late.